William Wordsworth wrote upon Westminster Bridge, and it's basically set in the very early hours of the morning, and the poet is on Westminster Bridge looking at the city of London. London was very much industrialised at the time, but he's capturing the serenity of the setting and looking at the city through the eyes of a romantic. And whilst the romantic period is all about the love of nature, in essence what Wordsworth is saying, that even in a place that is heavily industrialised, there are aspects of beauty and aspects of nature, and that they sort of work together and complement each other. So he begins the poem with, "Earth has not anything to show more fair." So he's saying that this is as beautiful as anything else in the world. "And dull would he be of soul who could pass by a sight so touching in its majesty." So he's saying, a lot of people probably walk past and don't consider things, but it's only people who are attuned to the environment and looking around that would find this an amazing, breathtaking picture of beauty. "The city doth like a garment wear the beauty of the morning." So he's using a simile here to show how the beauty of the sunrise and just the quiet setting and just the tranquil nature of the natural world is cloaking the city. It's sort of embracing the city. So they're sort of in harmony, I suppose. And then it tells us that it's silent, bare, and that the ships and towers, domes, theatres and temples lie open unto the fields and to the sky. So there's a really nice rhyme there in those two lines that tells us that all these aspects of the man-made world are open to the fields. So they're side by side, and they're all bright and glittering in the smokeless air. So it's smokeless because all the heavy industry hasn't begun for the day, and it's just showing that this is a really positive, bright sort of place when things are quiet. It says, "Never did sun more beautifully steep in his first splendour valley, rock or hill." So as you can imagine, this is a sort of a very visual image of the sun rising and casting its golden rays over the valley and the rocks and hills, but also over the buildings as well. "And never felt a calm so deep." So he repeats this word ne'er or never. "I never saw it and never felt a calm so deep." And this is the process of the romantic period, isn't it? That the poet, he observes the natural world, the aspects of nature, and that leads to a feeling of here it's saying calm and a feeling of awe. And we do have a shift from third person perspective. Now the poet's really opening up and expressing his emotions. So far we've got the poet in a position of solitude. He's there by himself and it's very quiet. And so that gives him this opportunity to observe the world. And in observing, and there's lots of imagery and there's lots of things that are presented to the reader to let us see what the setting is like, and so we've got visual imagery, and we've got this idea that there's smokeless air and all these things, and that allows for this feeling of tranquility, this really moment where the poet's able to reflect on the situation and gain a really joyful, positive perspective from it. The next thing that the poet does is personifies the river. "The river glideth at his own sweet will." And I think that the whole essence of the poem is that the tone of it and the pace is very calm, and now he's saying that even the river is just tranquilly gliding along, And this really encapsulates the world. You know, when the day begins, London's full of hustle and bustle, but at this moment we can see that there are aspects like the river that give that tranquil feel to it, and it's always there. And so what the poet is saying is that even in the most heavily industrialized areas of the city, there are aspects of nature, and they have these calming, tranquil effects. And it's just a matter of us, the reader, being awake to that and being able to observe it. The next line, he uses an exclamation, "Dear God, the very houses seem asleep." So he's really rejoicing in this beautiful setting, this situation, and he says, "And all that mighty heart is lying still." So here he's saying it's the heart, it's the life force of the city, and so rather than looking at the city as a negative place, he sees it as an amazing, vibrant place. And so it gives us a different perspective of the romantic thinking, that it's not all about daffodils and fields and meadows. This experience is open to everyone all around the world. So really the process of the poem is that the poet is in a position of isolation in an environment which allows for observation, and that observation we have quite vivid description of the setting, and then that leads to an epiphany. It's a feeling of awe, and the Romantics associated nature as the embodiment of God. So it's almost like a transcendent experience, through communing with the natural world and finding joy there is really celebrating God's glory. So it's a reinforcement of William Wordsworth's Christian beliefs, and that's pretty much the essence of this poem.